Hickman, Avengers, Volume 6, Infinite Avengers. This is our road to Secret Wars. We are Why So Sidious. I'm JD. This is David, Andy, and Lub. The other two members are out there somewhere. They actually will be on right after us because we're going to stay on and do Weekend Geek and Darth Maul coverage, episodes 1 and 2. We are at Why So Sidious Pod, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, X. We have a website in those bio descriptions. Check that out. You can find our merchandise, Meet the Crew page, and some other stuff. If you like buying comics, do it at Panel Bound Comics. Great prices for omnibuses and collected editions. Use code WhySoCities at checkout for $2 off to help support the show. And Q&A, we are live on YouTube right now. Don't be afraid to send in some questions. We'll answer them live if they are legitimate questions. And other than that, otherwise you're listening on Spotify and you can't do that, but you can still send us a message and we can reply to it in a future video. All right, let's get into the comic review. We do this thing because Doomsday coming up, Secret Wars coming up. It's titled Road to Secret Wars, but it's just as much a road to Doomsday in a way. So we're getting ready. That's how Doom becomes Emperor God Doom and sets the stage for Secret Wars, which will very likely be similar in the MCU. And it's a good comic run. So Volume 6, Dave, how did you like it?
Volume 6, it was pretty good. It felt very short. Again, I think it was issue 6, or no, sorry. I think it was issue 4. It was like 4 pages and all of a sudden it was over. I went back and read to see if I missed something there because I was so confused of how it was already over. But so yeah, it felt like a really concise volume. Felt very different from the other volumes we've read leading up to this. It was very Captain America centric. It was basically a Cap story for this volume, following him around for this. But it was a lot more entertaining than the last volume. I think the last volume was a bit slower and a bit clunky, whereas this was kind of straight to the point. You had some very interesting time travel aspects and spatial stuff that was very interesting. And the art was good again. The art style, I think it's the same as the last, I don't know how many issues on the Avengers runs themselves. But I know our next reading is going to be hopping into the new Avengers stuff. And I took a little sneak peek, and my God, I do not like the art style for the next volume where we cover the new Avengers. So I really liked Avengers, and then you go into the next style and it's like, oh my God, why does Namor look like Quagmire from Family Guy? I don't know.
It's unfortunate because it gets really hot and heavy after these couple volumes, and the story picks up, but the art does take a gnarly dip. It's weird.
Yeah. Okay.
Throughout time runs out and stuff, but even though the story just gets absolutely insane. As far as this one goes, really, self-isolated to Captain America. They are doing the Avenger thing it starts with him remembering what the Illuminati did to him quite a few volumes ago when he was a part of the Illuminati, after he was arguing against killing planets that are incursioning our planet. He was against that vehemently. So Doctor Strange had to wipe his mind, and he had to forget about the whole Illuminati thing. It's coming back to him. So he confronts Iron Man and them. One of my gripes for comics in general, actually, is the fact that when you start an argument, they just end up fighting each other. We have a disagreement, I'm just gonna punch you. It's obviously like immature. It's what you're not supposed to do, and they should just do that less in comics, because that's what happened. They are arguing and all of a sudden they were just brawling. It's like, come on,
everybody just started swinging. And while we're talking about that quick instance right there, because again, I don't read comics as much as you do, and I always kind of forget the difference between MCU Tony Stark and the comics Tony Stark. And this run always kind of reminds me that he's much more of an anti-hero almost at points. Like, a lot of people don't like him. They're calling him a monster this entire time. That's that monster Tony Stark. So I wanted to ask you, did that feel more like, were they leaning more into this run than in most comics, or is that just more of a common thing with Tony Stark in comics? Is he just kind of more of a gray area character than the MCU?
What year did Civil War come out in the MCU?
2016, I believe. Maybe.
Okay, well, this is before Civil War. I was gonna say, once he took that turn in Civil War in the MCU, you could see the comics kind of playing into that. But really, he was anti-hero-ish all the way back in the Civil War comics, which was like your 2008 and stuff. Ever since the Civil War comic event, ever since then, he has kind of carried this very controversial aura about him where he's doing what he believes, but a lot of people just do not agree with what he's doing. So yeah,
Right.
that's coming back full steam with this one on a big scale. Because in a way, the whole theme of this comic particularly is like decision making and the ramifications of all these characters' actions as we jump like hundreds or thousands of years into the future. We're basically just seeing like what kind of outcome did the Avengers have? All these things they did, all the things the Illuminati did, like what did that actually create?
Right.
That actually matches the MCU Steve Rogers. If we're going to move forward with his story after Endgame, that actually seems like a perfect theme for him to be going through. So I'm not saying we're going to see panels from this comic in Doomsday, but I could totally see this theme of Captain America because he's out of anybody in the MCU now after Endgame. He's like seen the consequences of decisions and he's seen how the future or how the past affects the present after doing the stones and all that. So I could see this seemed like it was a kind of an MCU story for Steve Rogers, where we could see something similar. But it was interesting. I feel like it didn't have any impact on moving forward. It wasn't a very like it didn't
Right.
story forward. It was almost just posing a bunch of questions the whole time. It was very interesting, which I not even a really complaint. I found it all to be pretty interesting. I thought there was a lot of fun tidbits of information in between characters from different timelines, and good character drama in between maybe a future self, past self. So although it didn't push the story forward, it was just like an introspective journey. It was interesting.
It felt like it had a purpose, and that purpose, like you said, was not to push the plot forward. Because like you said, I was thinking that too. I was like, there wasn't really, we almost paused. We paused the story and said, all right, all these incursions are happening. Now let's have Cap get some new perspective on this, see the future, see incursions happening, what it leads to, all this stuff. It was kind of just like a step away for Cap to have this massive epiphany of all these things happening and kind of hype him up to know what his role is in the future of the Secret Wars event here. But it was kind of just a prep story for Steve moving forward. It didn't really do anything as far as the plot line, and it plopped us right back into where we picked up from at the end of the volume. It's like, okay, now let's continue the story where the incursions are happening and the Illuminati is out there and Steve now knows. It also painted him in a bit of a, well, again, maybe this is more so comics than MCU. And if you're going to force Steve Rogers back in the MCU, then I guess I would like to see this side a little bit more. We saw it in Civil War, but he's a lot more stubborn. Every single person is telling him, look, we have to make sacrifices, man. This is a totally different scenario. People are going to die. We just have to accept that. And we have to take the choice that's the least, consequential deaths. And every time he's like, no, I'm here. I save people. That's what I do. And he just won't give it. It kind of gets annoying at a point. He was annoying me in the 5th issue of this volume, but again, it was purposeful. It's showing, why he's about to be that pain in the ass moving forward. He's feeling very righteous about it.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. MCU elevated Cap. MCU made Cap cool. I still think Cap is just kind of okay in the comics because here, and a perfect example is when Franklin Richards says, like, they're like 5,000 years into the future now.
Yeah.
And Franklin's like, what do you want to know? And he doesn't ask about incursions. He doesn't ask about these crazy galactic problems. He's like, is Tony right? Like, is the Illuminati, should I worry about the Illuminati? Like, it's just thinking small, like you're so righteous, but like, you got to open your mind a little bit to the bigger picture, pal. And that, like, he's supposed to be like, the kind of tactical genius. And here that certainly didn't shine because it felt like his perspective was just stuck in a kind of small box, obsessed with Tony. It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, and he's got this holier than thou speech later. And he's like, I don't, kind of what I was just going off of. He says, I think, like, I don't measure lives. I save them. And I think it's Kang or Immortus at that point is like, no one here cares, dude. Like, nobody cares about your righteous speech you just gave us here. This is much bigger than your morals. Like,
yeah, he was calling Cap outdated and stuff like that. That was good. And then because I read this like a month ago, and it was like Franklin Richards whispered something to him, and
Hawkeye.
I don't remember what that. Oh, Hawkeye did,
and then Franklin said,
"Play."
Yeah.
Tell me what happened with that. And then because he told Kang eventually.
Yeah, Hawkeye whispers something in his ear at the end of, when they jump 50 years into the future and they see old Hawkeye and they see what's going on. Hawkeye whispers something, but they don't show us. They don't say what he showed us or what he said. And then later, Franklin Richards says, as he's kind of prepping Cap for what he's doing, he goes, and I know that Hawkeye told you something, but I know you're going to ignore it anyway, or you're going to be stubborn about it and you're not going to listen to it, even though Hawkeye did whisper something to you. And dude, I don't think I wrote down. Oh, yeah. So I didn't write it down, but essentially it reveals what Hawkeye said in the last issue when Cap's there with Iron Lad, Kang, and Immortus. And it reveals that Hawkeye said, when you get there, they're going to tell you you have two options: to help that monster Tony Stark or to do nothing. What they're not going to tell you is the third option: kill them or kill Tony Stark or something like that. You have to kill him. And that's when he fires the shield. He breaks out and he escapes from the three guys. So yeah, that was the Hawkeye whisper.
And he escaped with the bomb that the previous past or future gave him. And they said, here's this bomb. When the time stone jumps you again, use this bomb. So these different eras of times and characters are like trying to manipulate each other and get ahead of the other. We're going to get ahead of you in the future. Yeah, so that was pretty weird, but it made it fun,
Yeah.
After it's all said and done, it didn't seem to mean much. It was just like, okay, well, what is Cap going to do moving forward? Like, how is he going to consider his actions moving forward? And we kind of already know, I mean, what he's going to do. He's going to continue to chase the Illuminati after this volume. So if he didn't take anything out of traveling thousands and hundreds of thousands of millennia or years, he didn't really take anything out of it, making this one seem weird, even though it was entertaining, and making this one, kind of on the lower totem of all these volumes, in my opinion, following up volume 5, which I'd say is probably the worst volume out of any of them. It's still not bad, but it's definitely this middle part of the whole Hickman era. It definitely slows down a little bit.
Totally.
But he was writing these for like 3 years. He started them in 2012 and Secret Wars was like 2015 and 16.
I was going to say, it's a pretty awesome compilation that Hickman has put together here. And I've seen some articles kind of saying it's one of the best Avengers run. The perfect Avengers run is this Hickman run that he's written. And it's pretty amazing realizing how expansive of a story this whole thing is and how many tie-ins there are. And it's leading to this massive event of Secret Wars. It's pretty sweet. But yeah, I like it more than volume 5 too. I think volume 5 was just bleh. It was just kind of a low point in this run. And this is literally, again, just hyping up Cap to go against Tony Stark. Really, it's him finding that reassurance that what he's doing is right to push him into the next chapter. But I mean, there were cool moments. Like we jump in 50 years into the future. Heroes are still fighting. There's old Avengers showing up, old Hawkeye. Hawkeye tries to kill Tony immediately at some point. They're saying everyone died because of Tony. Tony's just obviously the big villain here. And then you jump 500 years or 422 years into the future. Hawkeye gets left behind from the main group because it's Cap, it's Black Widow, it's Hawkeye, it's Thor, it's Hyperion. I think that's the group. And so every time they jump into the future, a couple of people get left behind. But we jump 500 years in the future and we find out that Ultron Prime rules Earth and he's the Allfather, which is very interesting how in the world that happened. But yeah, so there's cool little interesting what if tidbits throughout this run.
Very what if-esque, right?
Yeah. And that my favorite part about Franklin Richards there's a great line and he's warning Cap of his quest and he tells him, they fail because their task is impossible, but they also fail because you fight them. And Cap says something about how he's good with that. And he goes, well, tell me, Captain, how do you think it will feel to kill your brothers? And it's just like, oh, damn. Yeah, that's a hit. So I love Franklin Richards' role in this as the wise, can't be killed. He's kind of almost a little bittersweet about that, a little melancholy, alone on his garden ship, whatever the hell that is. But I liked Franklin Richards' use in this.
Yeah, he straight up tells Cap it's just counterproductive. Which is why I don't see why Cap comes out of this and continues to chase the Illuminati. It's like the most stubborn Captain America ever.
Yeah. The whole volume was comprised of people telling him to not do this. And the volume ends with him being like, yeah, I'm doing the right thing. I got this shit.
Yeah.
He's just so damn stubborn.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, after this one, all we got is volume. I don't know what volume it is, but this is the one of the ones I've been waiting for. Is when you actually get to have a group of kind of heroes trying to protect themselves against our Avengers, who are trying to protect themselves because of an incursion. So we get this Justice League matchup,
Yeah.
and then its time runs out. So from this point forward, it gets really good. Apparently, the art kind of takes a dip, but
Yeah.
I am really excited to dig into that. Especially there's like a Namor and Black Panther feud going on.
He kills it, man.
No, which matches the MCU, all this kind of stuff.
And that is the next when I skipped ahead to look at the next new Avengers issue with the terrible artwork and Quagmire as Namor. It is the scene, if you want to call it, or the sequence where Black Panther, T'Challa, and Namor are talking, and they walk in and they start, and that I immediately remembered that as, oh, this is a great discussion. So like, I'm looking forward to the run. I remember I have to kind of just get past the art at that point. But a concept where Cap calls in all the Avengers and he says we're hunting down the Illuminati, it's pretty sick. I mean, that gets me hyped for the next run. It's exciting.
And it's intense. Everything actually boils down to go time. Like Captain's after them. Captain America's really close to getting Tony, while they're really close to figuring out incursions, while Doctor Doom is really close to doing his thing. And it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. And real quick, did you think of anything with Immortus? And so we had Kang, Immortus, and Iron Lad as the last Avengers. And it didn't even say how far it was in the future. It said forever, which, is there any significance to that? I haven't read any Kang, Immortus, really Iron Lad stories. But did that little sequence there, is that really meaningful in any way?
The only thing that it made me think of was Kang in the MCU. You could expect Kang to be anywhere in any like extreme perspective of time, and that's fine. Okay. But as I'm reading this, I'm like, I just really wonder what the MCU was going to do with Kang. I wonder what they might still do with Kang. And it's like, it seems like this big time multiversal thing is perfect for the character. And that was just all blown to shit because of God knows what bad behavior.
I mean, honestly, though, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised, though. I mean, we've had bits where something happened in the MCU. They had plans, they bailed on those plans, and then 10 years down the road, it was like, we can actually use this again. I would not be surprised if Johnathan Majors was brought back at some point after Secret Wars, or even popped up in a little cameo deal there in Secret Wars itself. Probably not that early, but I wouldn't be surprised if the MCU went back to the Kang well at some point. It's just, you got Iron Lad, you got Nathaniel Richards, you've got a whole storyline and a bunch of stuff to dive into there. So I don't know. I wouldn't be mad.
So it's the easiest character to just have him disappear for a while and come back whenever you want him.
Because that's what he does in the comics, right?
Yeah, just a time jumping everywhere.
Yeah, you can be our new Deadpool. It'll just be Kang and Iron Lad popping up.
Yeah, it was cool to see Kang in there. In the comics, he's a really cool villain, but now it's just like, what the hell are they going to do with Kang? I mean, are we still expecting him to get his ass wiped by Doctor Doom so we know who the real villain is?
It'd be nice of him. He's going to wipe his ass.
Wipe his ass. That's considerate and gross.
Yeah,
Doom,
we'll
sick
see.
Freak. All right. Well, slow volume, short review, and that's okay. We'll keep them cooking. Yeah. We'll keep building to Doomsday. Thank you guys for joining us. We're actually going to stick around if you're live on YouTube. We're going to do our Week in Geek nerd news coming out. And we're going to do our Darth Maul episode 1 and 2 review with our other 2 members. So stick around for that. Otherwise, we will see you next time.